Born in Blood by COVID Candy. Chapter 321 Patience. Liam took a deep breath and swung at the first boulder. He almost used transfiguration by instinct, but stopped himself right before he did. At one point, Liam's swordsmanship was mostly based on speed. But ever since his bodily strength had increased to such an extent, he switched to a strength-based fighting style. That was why the dusk blades were made. They were vicious, cruel, and bloodthirsty weapons. That pretty much summed up Liam's fighting style. But now, he was forced to try something else. As Liam swung across the first boulder of the 1,000, he calculated the least amount of strength needed to split the boulder in half. His black blade ripped through the top of a marble sphere, cut through the midsection and got stuck inside the sphere. Failure. Liam frowned. Again, the trial restarted, and Liam was blinked back to the start. This is gonna take time. 4.5 months passed. Yes, 4.5 months. And Liam was still in the third trial. Of all the challenges Liam had faced, this was the most obnoxious, annoying and abhorrent one of all. So many repetitions. So many swings of his black blade. So many split boulders. But the highest Liam got to was 722. There were still 278 marble spheres remaining. When Liam stopped using brute force when swinging his sword, it actually worked as intended. As he got a bit more proficient, he no longer became as physically tired as the hours passed. Through that, Liam figured out the gist of the trial. Technique over brute strength. Precision over speed. Mastery over power. Thus, that's what Liam focused on refining for the upcoming weeks, which quickly turned into months. Obviously, Liam's swordplay improved massively compared to before. But apparently, he'd hit a bottleneck in understanding the sword. No matter what he did after the initial 3 months of developing his stroke, he was still stuck around the 700 mark with the boulders. His swing didn't get better for 1 whole month after that. At one point, Liam decided to mix the 2 styles of brute force and technique to see if it would work. It didn't. Firstly, even his technique, if it could be called that, required strength. If Liam cut half of the boulders with his technique and the other half with brute strength, time would still run out before he could complete the task. It was also tiring. Currently, Liam was laying flat over the patchy grass. All 1,000 of the boulders were perfectly reformed, and their sight pissed him off. Liam heaved a sigh. I've gotten used to too many fast results. Elder Jane was kinda right. I am impatient. Liam sat up and took out the black blade. Novel B.1n. He'd never really spent time studying the sword, other than when he wanted to forge something and understand its dimensions. Liam laid the odachi flat across his knees. Closing his eyes, Liam ran his fingers across its edge and repeated the celestial's words. A sword is not a piece of metal. It is fluid like water, strong like earth, fierce like fire, and sharp as wind. It is made for a dark purpose, but could be wielded for light. Silence. There was no magical enlightenment. Liam was about to change his tactics when he suppressed the urge and kept studying the sword. Patience. I need to practice patience, Liam thought, his eyes fixed to his odachi. He continued to feel every corner of the weapon. The paper-thin edge. The black, leather-wrapped hilt. The long length between the sharp tip and base. What is a sword? Liam asked himself. Not a piece of metal, apparently. It's deeper than that. Another month and a half passed as Liam continued in this state. He didn't eat, nor did he drink any water in that period. Even more, he didn't cultivate. He simply sat there, curiously admiring his sword and examining it. Liam didn't feel any different, but when he held the sword, it felt like an extension of his own body. It was a strange feeling. Like the sword had connected to him in a way. Liam rose to his feet. He didn't eat or drink despite not having any food for a whole month and a half. He needed to preserve this feeling and express it in its rawest form. Liam walked forward with a slow, unusual gait. Before, Liam's step was always fast and quick, like he was rushing to reach wherever he wanted to go. But now, his gait was calm and patient, like he was walking at his own leisure. There was still that fire in his eyes. Of ambition, greed, and maliciousness. It wasn't like Liam's personality had changed. But his sword had now been fitted to his needs. As Liam got close to the marble spheres, the same words rang out. Split them in half within the allotted time. Liam didn't run and swing like he always did when the announcement started. Things were different this time. Liam felt at ease. Liam moved between the left and right boulders. Shing. Shing. 2 slashes. The boulder split in two. Liam moved on, his steps light and unrushed. Each time he lined himself between the left and the right boulder, then made a fluid, curved swing. Shing. 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 1 hour. 2 hours. 3 hours. Shing. 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 6 hours. 7 hours. 8 hours. Shirring. Only the sound of Liam's sharp blade echoed through the fake dimension. Funny enough, Liam wasn't counting how many boulders were left. Liam never felt so close to his sword. All this time, it was a weapon to him. But no. Just as he was walking forward and clearing away the boulders, the sword was something else. The sword was a path. 10 hours. 11 hours. 12 hours. Silence. Liam closed his eyes and heaved a long sigh, then held the odachi vertically and ran a hand across its side. 1,000 boulders. 12 hours. Done and dusted. Chapter 322 Sword Connection. Liam heaved a long sigh and emptied his lungs. Then, he smiled. Finally, the third trial was over with. But Liam wasn't angry it took so long to complete. Nearly 5.5 months in total, in fact. Liam barely managed to cultivate and train with anything else during such a period. But he was still happy. Why? He'd never felt such a strong connection to something before. Apathy and indifference was a major part of his life. All he ever cared about was himself and his dreams. Even as Liam continued to grow in strength. But now? Liam cared for his sword, too. As Liam reveled in the newfound feelings, Eternal Sword's voice rang out. The sword reflects the heart. On its own, it has no purpose. But whoever holds it gives it one. Liam memorized the words. At the same time, a marble dais with a rune on top of it emerged from the ground, along with a gate to the fourth trial. Liam approached the rune with a smile he couldn't suppress. There was no difference between this rune and the sword-hardening one, but Liam imagined the reward would be greater. He crushed it in his hand. It exploded into motes of light that entered his mental sphere and melted into his mind. Silence. Liam took a deep breath, his eyes widened. How is that even possible? Liam activated the technique he just got. Suddenly, Liam's odachi hummed. By now, there were 2 layers of glamour on its surface anyways. The first being the natural black metal. The second being sword hardening. And the third. Wow, this is strange. Silence. Who spoke just now? The sword. The sword spoke to Liam. An inanimate object. Liam frowned a bit. The sword's words rang out in his mind. The voice was feminine, too. A professional voice of a middle-aged woman who works in an office. The description was strange, but that's what Liam imagined it as. Liam had no clue how the sword spoke. At the same time, Liam felt emotion from the sword. Right now, it was expressing curiosity and awe. Can you hear me? Liam tried transmitting to the sword. But the sword's voice was in his own mind. All he did was speak to himself. Yes, master. Liam raised his brows in surprise. This was strange. Very strange. Being called master by a sword was a strange sensation. Especially when considering that Liam felt close to the sword. This is weird. You aren't an actual woman, are you? Liam asked the sword. Silence. No, I am not, the sword replied with what seemed like an ethereal smile. end.Epsilon-L-B1, The name of the technique was called sword connection. In essence, all it did was connect the sword to its user. What would come as a result? Right now, it wasn't just that Liam felt the sword's emotion and words. Right now, he felt the sword as though it was his own flesh and blood. Like the metal had suddenly grown nerves and those nerves attached to his own body. In other words, there was no difference between Liam and his sword now. They were one entity. What's it like being a sword? Liam asked the Odachi. His curiosity got the best of him. Silence. Liam felt as though the sword smiled at him. I have an urge to cut things. But only once. I don't like to taste the same target twice. Silence. Liam instantly understood something. The sword had a personality of its own based on how and why it was made. Liam made the Odachi for one thing. Sharpness and cutting foes down instantaneously. And that's exactly what the Odachi just told him. Not only that, but Liam was sure that its voice was derived from the shape and style of the Odachi. It was clean, sleek, without so much as a nick on its shimmering surface. Indifferent, cold, and quick to the task. Sort of like a corporate lady. As such, Liam had a different thought. What about the dusk blades? Sword connection wasn't limited to just one weapon. As long as it was a sword, Liam could connect himself to it. In fact, Liam could connect to several swords at the same time. He didn't even know if there was a limit. I'll put you in my ring, now, Liam told the sword. The sword gave a nod. Obviously, it didn't have a neck and couldn't move. But Liam felt whenever it did an action of any kind. Liam put the sword in his ring and took out the dusk blades. Then, he connected with them. Rage. Bloodlust. Cruelty. Liam felt a surge of these three emotions enter his mind the second he activated the technique. Are you our forger? Two demonic voices asked at the same time. They sounded like creatures of the abyss that sought only cruelty and nothing more. I am, Liam responded. Silence. The dusk blades lessened their rage around their master. There was another emotion Liam felt when he answered their question. Fear. You are crueler than us, the dusk blades said. We're the tools to carnage. You are the carnage itself. Silence. Didn't think it was possible for blades to feel fear, Liam responded with a smirk. We do not, they responded. We fear not meeting your expectations. Strangely enough, Liam felt at ease around the talking swords. He'd forged them with his own two hands, after all. They were Liam, and Liam was them. Swords definitely appealed to him more now. Liam stored the dusk blades in his ring. His gaze fell on the fourth trial gate. This was just the third trial, and it was this hard. Whatever's past that gate will be way more difficult. Hurrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr was. His stomach. He still hadn't eaten. Liam felt weak all of a sudden. He quickly laid down a feast and began to wolf it down. For the next 3 weeks, he slowly replenished his strength and practiced with his weapons. Liam didn't name them something different. Their names suited their individual personalities. Black Blade preferred the name Black Blade. And Dusk Blades preferred Dusk Blades. The 3 weeks were over. Liam heaved a quick sigh, while his gaze grew resolute. Now, to the 4th trial. Chapter 323 Dragon. Before Liam entered, he made sure to guess what waited behind the door. Liam realized that the past 3 trials built on top of one another. After Liam received sword hardening, he had to cut 1,000 boulders back to back. end.O/V, E, LB //I-N. If he didn't have that ability, there was no way Liam's Black Blade wouldn't break in time. Right after was the connection between the wielder and its sword. Liam had to understand what the sword was if he wanted to cut 1,000 boulders on time. It has to build on sword connections somehow, Liam thought, his eyes fixed to the gate. But it doesn't have to follow any pattern. For the first couple of gates, Liam could peer through them. But now, the gate was a collection of bright rays of light shooting everywhere. He wasn't going to find answers laying around. Thus, with light steps, Liam unsheathed his black blade and walked through. Bright light encompassed his vision, which slowly dimmed to a regular view. What Liam saw made his eyes widen and his instincts scream with danger. Dragon. 200 meters ahead was a massive freaking dragon. 10 meters tall and 6 wide. 2 jagged gray horns protruded from the top of its flat head. Its draconic body was covered with bright crimson scales. It had 4 legs, each of them protruding with terrifying black, overgrown claws. Its eyes were closed, but as soon as Liam walked in, it rose to its 4 feet and looked at him with hostility. A guttural growl shook the air. It was like a slow chainsaw powered by a nuclear reactor. It wasn't the only one there. They were lined up beside a zigzag road. Between each of the road's curves stood a massive flame dragon. Liam's breathing noticeably quickened. He counted at least 15 flame dragons at the peak of rank 4. It goes without saying that Liam wouldn't win a fight against them. Not even one at a time. With Liam's prowess and abilities, he could kill a low to mid-ranking zenith beast if he put in the effort. But it depended largely on what kind of beast it was, and what kind of speciality it had. But this. Liam had never fought with a dragon before. But he knew just how dangerous they really were. They were literally built for viciousness. Their claws provided cruel offensive power, and their armors gave impeccable defense. And this wasn't factoring their usage of fire abilities. In general, magical beasts had amazing bodies that could withstand most spells at the same rank as them. Not to mention, the dragons were at the peak of the 4th rank. But the voice spoke kinder words. Reach the end of the passage. Surprised, Liam looked at the road. It was more than 500 kilometers between him and the 15 dragons. But at the end of it was a gate. To the 5th trial. Liam didn't have to kill the dragons. He just had to find a way through them. Plus, from what he saw, each of the dragons were in their own station. Meaning, if Liam was to pass one, they couldn't chase him through. However, there were no safe zones between the dragon stations. Liam couldn't take a break if he passed a dragon. He'd have to run non-stop until arriving at the opposite side. Liam took a deep breath. This was better than battling a dragon, but it was still difficult. Do I have only one chance? Liam thought. The previous trials were pretty lenient with him. There was a high probability that this wasn't a one-try kind of thing. But he couldn't erase that possibility. I can't rush into this thing. 15 dragons and 500 kilometers. Every 33 kilometers, I'll face another dragon. They can scorch and turn me to ash if I'm not careful. They'll probably shoot long-ranged attacks when I run from them, too. I can use transfiguration to bolster my speed a ton, but dragons aren't slow. If Liam had the characteristics of his infernal body, the task would get considerably easier. But he didn't. Why? Because of his triumvirate body. When Liam went through the change, he'd lost both his throes of anguish technique and the infernal tempering. Which was just unlucky. That was why Liam's blood was used as a substitute to his regeneration. His natural body didn't regenerate, but since the triumvirate was so easy to reform and repair, it was way easier to heal, but at 3 times the price. Liam pulled himself out of his thoughts. He outstretched his hand to the side, and the black blade emerged from his shadows, grasping his arm. Ever since they gained individual personalities, Liam stored them inside his shadows. The black blade complained that the rings were too claustrophobic. Instantly, the blade recognized what the issue was. Liam's connection to it was both mental and physical. It was like they shared memories and bodies, but were separate by their contrasting forms. You're in trouble, the black blade laughed gracefully, like a mature corporate lady. Haven't fought a dragon before. Liam sighed. Didn't think I'd be fighting dragons in a swordsman's inheritance. the black blade went silent. You sure I'm up to the task? The little demons you've stored me beside look much more fit to deal with a dragon. I heard that, kitchen knife, the dusk blades shouted angrily from Liam's inner world. Amazingly, the black blade and the dusk blades came to know each other. To the black blade, sharpness, precision, and mastery were its priorities. To the dusk blades, cruelty, viciousness, and murder were their priorities. Their personalities were complete opposites. Once they entered the rings, they began to argue with one another about it. Now, the black blade called the dusk blades little demons. And in turn, the dusk blades called the black blade kitchen knife. Liam sighed at their bickering. I have to see what the challenge is first. If the situation calls for it, I'll use the dusk blades. At that, the two went silent. Liam slowly approached the zigzag road he had to sprint through. All the dragons woke up and gave him nasty glares, especially the closest one. Liam crouched to the ground, the black blade to his side. Bang! Liam shot forward. Chapter 324 Slow. Liam shot forward at incredible speed. His thighs, shin, and feet were all strengthened and empowered when he let loose. They were semi-transformed, too. To add another layer of power. 30 kilometers were basically nothing when considering Liam's ability and power. With his burst of speed, Liam was basically going 180 km/h. Liam cleared 25 kilometers almost instantly. He saw how the dragon reacted. Too slow. Liam flew past him, and the next dragon looked at him with a guttural ROA. Bang! The world flipped over and over and over again. Liam was swatted away like a fly. The first dragon's claw smacked him full force, sending him flying back to where he started. He flew for a good 65 meters and tumbled 6 times before coming to a stop. Ugh! Liam felt more than a few bones break. Skull, shoulders, multiple ribs, and a knee. Everything shook and vibrated, sending shudders up and down his skin. But due to the nature of Liam's body, repairing himself wasn't an issue. Crack! Over his limp figure, cracking noises resounded. Each bone was being snapped back into place with a loud crunch. Slowly, Liam sat up. That swipe was damn quick. Liam didn't even see it coming. Liam looked to his side. The black blade was still wrapped around his fingers, unbroken. The sword, not the fingers. Liam had to straighten them out with a ruthless yank. When he finished fixing himself, he stood up and looked at the dragon ahead of him. Just how did he hit me so damn fast, Liam thought with a frown. It clearly wasn't normal. It was too fast. Flame dragons had mainly one weakness. Speed. Everything else was incredibly powerful, and they definitely had only a handful of weaknesses. But most of all, they lacked speed. Which begged the question, just how in the world did Liam get flicked away like that? The dragon only grinned smugly at him. Liam let out a low grumble, but then realized his old habits were bubbling up. Patience. Be patient. You'll figure something out. That was way too fast, the black blade said suddenly. It was frowning. I didn't see it either. You had me too close to your side, said the black blade. I thought the second one might attack. Liam didn't blame the black blade. He didn't get it, either. The black blade obviously didn't have eyes. But it could still see through Liam's connection with it. Maybe the little demons are better suited? There are 2 of them, you know, said the black blade. Sharpness isn't always the answer, despite being the best. 2 grumbles left Liam's shadow. Liam heaved a sigh. He let go of his odachi. The black blade gently floated downward into the inner world, and Liam took out the dusk blades in their stead. A few overgrown lizards wouldn't be much to deal with, the dusk blades said in unison. They were smiling. Liam looked back towards the dragons. He got as near as he could without the dragons attacking him. He fixed the dusk blades to his sides, then heaved a breath. Then, he crouched to the ground and strengthened his lower body as much as he could. Bang! Liam launched forward again. even faster than before. This time, he kept a close eye on the first dragon. Just like last time, Liam got past him quickly. The dragon just sat there in slow motion. Then, bang! Liam was slapped away once more. Another set of bones cracked out of place as he was set flying and tumbling the distance. As Liam came to a stop, there was realization in his eyes. Crack! His bones healed again, giving him the power to stand. "You saw that, right?" the Duskblades asked. Liam nodded grimly. These dragons. They didn't follow the classical laws of physics. They were incredibly fast despite their monstrous sizes. The bigger something was, the slower they were. Everyone knew this. The reason was simple. Larger creatures had more mass, and it took more energy to accelerate that mass. It was for this reason that ants moved so incredibly fast to a human's vision. Some ants even moved 108 times their body length. If a human did so, they'd move at speeds up to 400 km/h. Yet, the dragons moved as though they were weightless. The only reason Liam wasn't smacked away instantly was because the dragon was a sadistic prick. Even now, it grinned at him. All 15 of them did from a distance. Somehow, the inheritance made them both weightless and more intelligent. Liam grimaced. A moment later, he empowered his knees. Bang! Liam turned into a blurring streak. This time, his king's eye processed in slow motion. N0V1 bin. He watched as the dragon tracked him with his eyes as he passed by. Then, it raised a claw in unreal speed to smack him away with. Liam clutched the Duskblades tightly. In one fluid motion, he twirled midair as the claw swept by, running his Duskblades across the dragon's rigid scales. The Duskblades, strengthened by sword hardening and mastered with sword connection, cut only 5 inches into the claw. Bang! Liam was smacked away again. His world flipped again like the inside of a washing machine. When he finally stopped tumbling, he healed up his shattered bones. Crack! Then rose to his feet with a pissed-off look on his face. This prick, Liam cursed, replaying what just happened. After the dragon missed the first claw swipe and Liam managed to cut its claw, it simply lurched forward and smacked him away again. It was like a goalkeeper defending his post. The dragon was a goalkeeper, and its station was its goal post. Liam was the ball. Liam heaved a sigh to calm himself down. Patience. Liam tried the same thing once more. This time using the black blade. Liam crouched and empowered himself. Bang! When the dragon's claw swiped past him, Liam made a precise cut down its middle. It cut through 3 times the depth of the Duskblades. But then... bang! Liam was smacked away. Chapter 325 Breaker Blade. Bang! Liam shot forward. Smack! Liam flew backward. Bang! Liam shot forward. Smack! This was the gist of what Liam was going through for several months. 48 smacks and more than 100 bones broken later, Liam barely got past the first 6 dragons. More than 3 months had passed. But Liam was patient. It wasn't like he was getting battered over and over for no reason. The more he got smacked and burned, the more he figured out about the dragons. Not only was their speed disgustingly fast, but so was their natural defenses and power. This completely negated any chance of this being a riddle of some kind. Like subtly telling him to kill 15 dragons, which he couldn't do. However, the riddle was in how Liam had to get past so many damn dragons. The first dragon was perhaps the easiest to get past. Liam managed to manipulate his body to make it as thin and streamlined as possible, putting all the strength in his legs. When he shot forward, he was faster than the dragon's swipe. Much faster. But what Liam didn't expect was the massive fireball that ignited to his side. Right, he'd forgotten the dragons could fight long range, too. Even now, the entire left side of him had bits and pieces of charred flesh. Still, it was a trial and error sort of thing. After trying repeatedly, Liam managed to duck past the first, change his body shape back to normal to counter the fireball with the black blade, then continued dodging the claw attacks and flamethrower attacks they shot at him, using the dusk blades to defend. The dragons were not allowed to bite or maw him, but everything else was on the table. Nelf/LB/in. They were all programmed their own way, with their own behaviors and attacks. Fireballs. Explosive fireballs. Devastating claw attacks. Blaze bullets. Flame spewing and much, much more. But like all the other trials, Liam hit a bottleneck with how many dragons he could get past. Thus, Liam was currently tweaking his dusk blades. Sword connection granted Liam understanding of what inscription to put where. And ever since Liam had completed the triumvirate body, the experience alone sharpened his inscribing skills. So, the dusk blades could now absorb fire alongside chaos. "We are overjoyed," the dusk blades said in unison. "We now wield the flames." With the excitement in their demonic voices, Liam imagined them finding prey after years of hunger. Then, Liam reattempted the trial. Bang! He shot forth with a disproportionate body, passing the first dragon due to his skinny form and fast speed. Whoosh! A blazing fireball shot towards Liam as soon as he entered the second dragon's domain. Liam was prepared. He hurled the little demons at the sun-like fireball. They made a series of clinking noises until weightlessly meeting the fireball's charge. Then, it started to absorb the heat. As the fireball shrank, Liam continued running as fast as he could to leave the dragon's domain. Obviously, Liam couldn't negate a fireball attack so easily. He simply shrank it to an acceptable amount. As soon as the heat got too high, the little demons told him instantly. Liam pulled back the dusk blades, which were now blazing with fire and orange heat. They looked extremely volatile and prepared to explode at any second. But fire was nothing compared to chaos in terms of sheer instability. The blades held the flames without losing them. Liam arrived at the third dragon. Compared to the others, it was a bit smaller. If it chose to swipe its claws, Liam would have been able to sever it with his black blade. But it didn't. Instead, it spit out tiny little bursts of fire from its mouth. They were small. To a dragon's size, they were bullets. The bullets shone brightly like tiny suns, which quickly shot at Liam's vicinity. Liam threw his chains forward again and started to run as fast as he could. As the tiny suns met the blade's charge, they exploded. But then, so did the dusk blades. Boom! For a second, Liam thought he'd won the clash of attacks. But a sun bullet shot through the plumes of flames and exploded in his face. Right after, he was hurled back to the starting point, burned and bruised and beaten. Ugh! He needed a break. Liam spent the next few days mulling over the trial. Am I expected to sever the claw, he thought. But why are they so much stronger and faster than me? If all it required was sharpness, the black blade was good enough. The dusk blades aren't sharp, but they're deadlier when I use them to rip away the scales. Succeeded a couple times, too. But they healed up again. Even when Liam put all his strength in an attack, the dragons would heal them right after. It's not strength either, Liam mused. Liam sat down and closed his eyes, just to hone his thoughts. Beside him lay the black blade and the dusk blades. Adaptation. Mastery. Patience, Liam repeated what he did during the last 3 trials. Silence. I think I figured it out. Liam opened his eyes and looked towards the swords. I need another sword. I've been too narrow-minded. The dusk blades are for grievous wounds. The black blade is for sharpness. Together, they work well. But I don't have anything that deals with a dragon. I need versatility, but I'm trying to put a square and a triangle into a circular hole. Liam took out his materials. All kinds of rank 4 spirit beasts were laid before him. It needs to be heavy-duty, Liam thought, scouring his options. Taller than me and just as wide. Liam picked out a spirit beast. I want a weapon that could kill with its weight and force alone. Something that makes a dragon flinch. And I'll name it the Breaker Blade. 3.5 weeks passed for Liam to finish forging the blade. Liam grinned broadly at its sight. Unbeknownst to him, the dragons gave the breaker blade a dangerous glare. Chapter 326 Massive. Liam was 21.5 now. Nowadays he looked much like his father, to his dismay. Only facially. The eyes, hair, and everything in between was his own. Liam could easily change his face. But he didn't. He wanted to remind himself of a debt he owed to the Royce family. Nevertheless, Liam raised the breaker blade above his head. It was as tall as Liam, around 5 feet 11 inches feet. It was double-edged, but it wasn't sharp due to the thickness of it. It was nearly 2 inches thick. It was wider than Liam, too. The length of 2 adult arms side to side. The tip wasn't narrow. It was wide, like the top of a pyramid. The shape was unique to its width and height. This wasn't a weapon of sharpness or viciousness. It was a weapon of power. It was damn heavy, too. More than 212 kilograms of condensed scales and bones. All of which was layered atop one another. Liam actually had to exert force in order to hold the titanic weapon. The average rank 3 body could not hold it. And it wasn't made by just any normal scale. They were the scales of a darkness-devouring dragon. What did a darkness-devouring dragon do? They absorbed darkness to get stronger. The beast was incredibly rare, and Ucladd had given it to him as a gift. Liam wanted to save it to make a rank 4 weapon, but decided to use it here and now. Liam had used its entire body to forge the blade. Everything was used. Not a single morsel of flesh was spared in its making. The result was a peak rank 3 weapon that looked monstrous and menacing. It looked like something to slay dragons with. Liam heaved a long sigh. A smile formed on his lips. With one hand, he outstretched the breaker blade. Then, he activated sword hardening. Shying. The sharp noise rang out and lingered. Since the breaker blade was so tall, it took a few seconds for sword hardening to cover the entire thing. Liam smiled as it finished. Now. To connect with it. Liam activated sword connection. The sword hummed loudly. Louder than the dusk blades and the black blade. Liam held his breath. Slowly, the hum calmed down. Liam felt the blade's emotions. It felt stoic and had a powerful will. Like all of its emotions were in check and kept under control. "Cruel hands hold my hilt," the breaker blade said with a melancholic tone. Cruel. So very cruel. Its voice was deep and menacing. Grim, like someone who'd seen too much, been through too much. Silence. Liam furrowed his brows a bit. What did a blade know about life experience? Despite calling him cruel, the breaker blade wasn't angry or disgusted at him. The sword was now a tool for him, after all. It was not stained with blood. But soon, it would be. And it would be just as guilty as Liam. This was why the breaker had a solemn aura. Liam swung the blade from top to bottom. Whoosh! A loud gust of wind gushed the area where Liam swung, causing the patches of grass to sway violently. It wasn't a special ability. It was literally just the weight of the sword being swung with force in that direction. The only drawback of so much power in its base form was its speed. The breaker blade was a bit slow. Not too big an issue, Liam thought, idly swinging the sword. Then, Liam supplied the sword with his darkness. No, there'll be one in. Darkness swirled around the weapon's hilt and enveloped the blade, absorbing it. Liam felt the weight of the weapon grow in his hand. From 212 kilos, it rose to 240. At that point, it stopped absorbing darkness. The breaker looked incredibly menacing. Liam even felt its emotions change. From a melancholic and stoic aura, it slowly became filled with rage and maliciousness. An almost bestial energy. Liam smiled. That's more like me. Then, Liam swung once with the heavy sword, aiming for a patch of grass. Boom. Mud and grass flew in all directions. A radius of more than 45 meters turned into a wasteland. A second later, the grass and mud reformed and grew back as though nothing had happened. As the darkness discharged, Liam felt the breaker melancholic again. Can't do much to change its feelings, Liam thought. As long as it doesn't interfere with what I want to do, then it can stay that way. Liam put the breaker ring inside his shadows, then cultivated to gain back his strength. Even with his proficiency and experience in inscriptions, making a peak rank 3 item strained his body. He needed to rest for at least a week. While Liam slept, the 3 blades were introduced to one another. "So you're the new one?" the black blade asked the breaker within the inner world. She gave a smile. "You're massive." "That's what she said," said the dusk blades, laughing gutturally between themselves. They were proud of that joke. Black blade sighed. Obviously, the blade wasn't a she. But due to the differences of voices, the dusk blades called it a her. "I always tell him to store these 2 in a ring. He doesn't understand how annoying they get." Liam awoke. It was time to get past this damn trial once and for all. Liam took out all 3 of the blades. "I'm gonna use all 3 of you at the same time," Liam said. All 3 of the weapons nodded firmly. Liam's back sprouted with 3 octopus tentacles. 2 to the sides of his shoulder blades, and 1 at the spine. Although transfiguration in the previous trials made him weak, it wasn't the same here. Liam coated each of the swords with his shadows and sword hardening, making each sword beautiful in its own way. Liam wielded the black blade in the middle tentacle, and the dusk blades on his shoulder blades. Then, Liam gripped the breaker blade in his own hand. It was a 2-handed weapon, but Liam could move it with just 1 hand. His monstrous physique came in handy during such times. "Let's get this damn trial over with." Chapter 327 Blade. Liam looked like a morbid killing machine. The 2 dusk blades hanging over his shoulders made them look like serpentine fangs. The black blade pressed against his spine made him look like an animal. And the breaker blade of all looked incredibly menacing. Liam's long black hair and black wrappings fit well with the transformation. All in all, he felt pretty confident in clearing out the 4th trial. The first dragon gave Liam a quick growl. Now, it was worried. Liam wasn't the same as when he first smacked him away. His aura was colder, more refined and sharp. Like a blade. Fuhu. Liam emptied his lungs. Then, he crouched, empowering his body. Transfiguration acted quick and pulled all of his flesh to his legs, tripling them in size. With the triumvirate body, transfiguration wouldn't thicken or bulge his form. But since Liam was adding so much flesh onto his lower body, it made his muscles protrude. Everything above his hips looked anorexic. But the first dragon was already prepared to slap him away and use all his abilities. It would no longer play with its food. Bang! Liam turned into a streak. Then came the dragon's instant swipe. At the same time, the dragon's throat started to rumble with flames. It had never done this before. But as Liam flew by, both a swiping claw and a lance of flames shot straight towards him. Whoosh! The claw whizzed by. Liam was too fast. And although it was a weird flex, there was no one that got smacked as hard as him by a dragon. He knew exactly where the claw was heading for, and he countered by adjusting his speed by just a little. However, the lance of flames was still blazing behind him. The heat prickled his skinny skin. A full blast of it would definitely shred Liam apart. As Liam's flesh reverted back to normal, the dusk blades flung behind his shoulders as he ran. It lurched at the lance of flames like a snake, and the 2 forces clashed just a few meters away from Liam. 1 dusk blade alone was not enough to deal with the lance. But there were 2. Both blades started to absorb the lance's fire, turning into just a cluster of harmless flames. Like so, the first dragon was cleared away. Then came the second. Another giant fireball flew towards him as he ran across the zigzag path. For this, Liam used the breaker blade. As the fireball got close enough to singe his skin, Liam launched himself upwards and swung the breaker against it. Whoosh! In an instant, the fireball started to redirect itself. Contrary to reality, the flames of a dragon weren't just gaseous. They were also liquid. The fire was a result of the glands in their throats. As soon as it met air, it combusted and exploded into flames. Thus, instead of dissipating like air under the breaker's wide edge, the fireball was redirected towards the dragon. As such, Liam passed the second dragon's domain and entered the third. Some like fire bullets shot at Liam with incredible speed. Liam didn't use the dusk blades or the breaker. This required sharpness. Shing! The black blade flickered with an orange glimmer on its surface. Right now, a thrill ran through its hot edge. NOV/E/L/B/.1N. One after the other, the flurry of fire bullets split in half, exploding behind Liam with loud booms. The fake dimension was colored with bright shades of vermilion and orange. Liam entered the fourth dragon's domain. He used the breaker blade again. Liam entered the fifth dragon's domain. He used the dusk blades and the black blade. Liam entered the sixth dragon's domain. He used the breaker and the black blade. Now, it was perfectly clear what the test was all about. Adaptation, mastery and patience. And now, versatility. Of course, it wasn't without its wounds. Liam's blood was working twice as fast to heal up his burned and mangled skin. A nasty claw mark ripped the flesh on his back, but his tentacles were still in one shape. Liam passed the seventh, the eighth, the ninth dragons. Liam's hair was burnt to a crisp. If someone cut a pound of flesh from his body, they could eat it cooked. Liam passed the 10th, the 11th, the 13th dragon. The further Liam went, the more dangerous the dragons were. They followed no pattern and weaved all types of attacks into their offensive. Likewise, Liam had to use the dusk blades, the odachi, and the breaker in quick combos to pass through a domain. At one point, Liam manually chose what wounds to regenerate. He was losing too much blood. And unless it was crucial for him to heal a wound, he would leave it be. Which was why he currently looked like a charred and desecrated cadaver. But his effort paid off. Liam passed through the 14th domain. Now, he was against the meanest, baddest-looking dragon from all the others. The two jagged horns on the top of its streamlined head were far vicious-looking compared to the rest. It was bigger, too. 13 meters tall. 6 meters wide. Liam's dusk blades were blazing hot, surging with flames. Their demonic laughs resounded in Liam's mind. The black blade was stained with blood. It was thrilled to a sadistic level, grinning like crazy even though it had no mouth. The breaker blade was filled with darkness and maliciousness. It wanted to ravage something. Anything. They've saved the best for last, Liam said to his swords with a smile. They hummed with mixture of excitement, rage and urge to cut. Liam ran forward, blurring. 30 kilometers away from the gate. The 15th dragon roared as loud as it could. Its roar was accompanied by surging flames, lances of fire and blazing bullets. With fluid slashes, Liam cut through each and every one of them as he ran. 20 kilometers away from the gate. Shing. Clong. Ryup. 10 kilometers away from the gate. Shing. 5 kilometers. Clang. 1 kilometer. The dragon's claw came from above at Liam, attempting to crush him like an ant. All three of Liam's swords hummed with their own unique emotion. With a bestial roar, Liam swung all three of his swords towards the claw. His Ashura strength clashing against a dragon's. The breaker sounded like metal hitting metal hitting metal. Then, it exploded along with the dusk blade's flames. Boom! The claw was shredded apart. Liam propelled himself through the gate. Liam jumped through the gate right after demolishing the dragon's claw. Not just any claw. A peak rank 4 dragon's claw. The only reason Liam was able to do so was because of his combined powers and strength. He saved the breaker blade's ability for last. It had just a 2 usage limit before the blade needed time to stabilize and reuse its ability. Then, there was Liam's dusk blades, which had accumulated furious flames in them. All of this bolstered by transfiguration and a semi-transformation helped break down a dragon's claw. As soon as Liam passed the gate, there was silence. No growls, no roars, no dragons. However, there were no sunny skies and grassy patches. Liam was in a massive ornate room filled with all kinds of expensive furniture, delicacies, and drinks. It looked like the largest room of a palace, but there were no halls or other rooms. Just one. Opposite to him was the fifth trial gate, glowing brightly. The space smelled like musk and relaxed his tense, on-edge nerves. Pain still throbbed all over him, though. In the center of the hall was a circular marble platform with a bright rune on top of it.Nov, LB1N. Light suddenly encompassed Liam and started to heal his wounds one after the other. His charred flesh reformed and squirmed back to normal. His torn muscles unknotted and fixed into place. His mental energy was back to full, and he was filled with vigor once again. At the same time, Liam's swords started to float on their own. They were gently raised into the air, hovering above his head and continuing to rise up. Liam almost yanked them back, but stopped himself mid-action once he realized it might be a reward. All three of the swords rose above the dais and clustered together. Liam watched with widened eyes. Slowly, the swords started to merge and combine with one another. The dusk blades conjoined with the black blade, and the black blade merged with the breaker. They had become one entity. Slowly, the swords condensed and started to thin out. It didn't look like any of the three swords, but a simple, thin longsword made from black metal, similar to a claymore. A swordsman must never be as rigid as his sword. A river cannot encompass a lake. The words abruptly stuttered mid-sentence, replaced with a sudden jarring noise. Liam raised his brows in confusion. Silence. There was nothing for a few seconds. The walls of the fake dimension started to vibrate slightly. A faint tremor ran through the space. It was so vague, the only reason Liam knew about it was because of his shadow sense and triumvirate body. Silence again. Liam grimaced in confusion. What's happening? A river cannot encompass a lake, Eternal Sword's voice continued again. A lake cannot flow like a river. But to an ocean, they belong. The longsword slowly hovered towards Liam, harmlessly landing in his grip. But Liam remained vigilant and confused. Silence. What was that? Liam thought with furrowed brows, his eyes darting in different directions. A glitch? Impossible, Liam thought. A glitch in a celestial's inheritance? Just impossible. A celestial making a mistake in his inheritance was like if Liam made a mistake shaping a blade. The chances were less than zero. But what did I just see? Liam had a bad feeling rising in his chest. Paranoia creeped into his thoughts. Was this a part of the test? Eternal Sword sucked at directions, so it was difficult to say. Plus, he enjoyed riddles, so maybe this was part of it? If so, what was Liam supposed to learn? Attempting to clear the trials under duress and pressure? Liam put the thought to the side. Obviously, he wouldn't discard the notion that the inheritance is slowly degrading and falling apart while he was stuck inside, unable to escape or call for support from anyone on the outside, doomed to die unless he manages to clear out all the trials as fast as possible. That shouldn't be the case, Liam thought of the possibility and slightly frowned. From what I studied and heard, even zenith inheritances last at least a millennia. They are difficult to sustain, but if the area is filled with dense aura, they could last for incredibly long amounts of time. The aura density within the world's cut was still dense and pure. The beasts around it had actually risen to the peaks of the fourth rank, and there were more than a dozen death zones that had rank 5 beasts around it. The more I think about it, the more I feel unnerved. It was just a slight vibration, tremor, and a stutter. But Liam's paranoia had already made him think of any possibility of foul play. What if another country already knew of it? Liam's heart started to beat faster. Maybe they've already infiltrated the inheritance? Quan and Yusen couldn't do anything to it, but what if the general or the queen knew a different method? Liam even held off on studying the longsword or crushing the rune in his hand. His mental waves were wildly surging against his golden barrier. Silence. Liam heaved a breath to calm himself down. All I have to do is get this damn thing over with. Liam inspected the longsword in his grip. It had swallowed all three of his weapons to become one. Sword connection showed that all three of Liam's swords were inside the weapon, but they were silent. It comes with the rune. Thus, Liam picked up the rune and crushed it. As the motes of light entered his mental sphere, a look of realization formed on his face. Liam raised the claymore. Shing! The claymore had transformed, turning sharp, sleek and single-edged. What had it transformed to? The black blade. Shing! A moment later, it split into two and turned into the vicious dusk blades. Shing! Right after, the dusk blades merged together and formed into the mighty breaker blade. Sword construct. The new technique allowed Liam to shape his weapons however he liked. However, it had its own limitations. Liam's breaker blade condensed into a dagger with a loud hum. It was made from the same material Liam's breaker was. Darkness-devouring scales. However, when Liam used sword connection, there was no personality or connection with him or the blade. The sword was empty. Why? Because Liam didn't make or inscribe it. It didn't have his touch. It was just a sharp piece of metal that looked like a curved dagger. If Liam wanted to connect with the sword, he had to make one from scratch, then add it to the sword construct. In contrast, Liam could manipulate his swords to slightly alter their forms. Liam could even combine the two qualities slightly. Liam reverted the sword back to the breaker. Slowly, one of the edges of the mighty weapon turned sharp and thin. However, the base weapon was still the same. Yet, the sharp edge actually belonged to the black blade. It was still 212 kilos. So long as Liam didn't change the entirety of its composition and true purpose, he could add and combine qualities. Plus, Liam's breaker blade had two edges. The black blade was a single-edged weapon, which was why only one edge of the breaker was sharpened. There's no need to keep them separate now. They're one entity, but individualistic at the same time. All of the transformations were instantaneous and required no mental energy or aura to complete. If Liam wanted to switch from sharpness to power in a single swing, he could. Are you serious? Did you seriously combine me together with the little demons? The black blade protested. Her tone was filled with regret and silent disapproval. Same here, forger. We dislike the kitchen knife. Pompous, cocky, and very obnoxious, the dusk blades countered. It's bad enough that you have that damn spider always clicking with us, the black blade added with a sigh. The breaker blade was stoically silent, watching the ordeal with tired eyes. Not that it had eyes, of course. Liam ignored them. There was no doubt in Liam's mind that sword construct was an amazing ability. Liam's face turned stern and dark. I'll rest for a week and a half before entering the next trial. Just a week and a half. Usually, Liam would take 2 weeks of rest to nourish himself back to health and train with his new abilities. But what happened still unnerved him to a bad extent. Sword construct is relatively easy for me to get used to, so there's no need to prolong my rest. Now, there was a hidden time bomb somewhere. Liam had no intention of being there when it exploded. Liam looked much better after a week and a half of rest. His burned-off black hair had grown back to a short cut, and he'd exchanged his charred clothes for a new set of black wrappings. Liam was ready for the 5th trial. Another month would let me get past the liquid stage, Liam thought with furrowed brows. Finally, the liquid stage was near. Since Liam had so much to do, Liam couldn't put all his eggs in one basket and focus on his core. Otherwise, he would have already advanced by now. But he was already in peak condition. He'd already practiced with his new abilities. He already finished every delicacy and drink that the ornate hall offered him. Although him getting past the liquid stage would greatly bolster his prowess, wasting another month would give Twilight an advantage. Liam hadn't forgotten about the Moyang woman. If the two of them had been placed into different areas of the inheritance but undertook the same trials, that meant that only one of them would exit at the end of it. What would happen to the one left behind? Death. It was for this same reason that Liam didn't make another peak rank 3 sword to add to his sword construct. If he did, there was a chance that the next trial wouldn't even require it, and he'd waste a full month. Liam heaved a sigh. Then, with the breaker blade in his hand, took a step into the blinding rays of light. When Liam walked through, he expected the same sights as always. Green grass, sunny skies, and light wind. This time, there were a few differences. Instead, there was flat stone ground, a starry night sky, and no wind. There was something ominous about the trial. Liam looked around. Neither his triumvirate body nor his shadow sense picked up on anything strange. Liam's gaze snapped towards the source of noise. Tendrils of darkness and light were swirling together to form something. Something human. Liam frowned. The grip on his breaker blade tightened. Nov/lb/in. First, the feet slowly formed, then the legs, then the hip, then the waist, then the chest, then the neck, then the face. Liam's eyes widened with pure shock. It was him. A copy of Liam himself. This was no shadow clone. No. Those cold, multicolored eyes, the thin lips, pale skin, and sharp chin. What was even more shocking, in his hand was a breaker blade. Copy Liam's eyes connected with Liam's. A cold grin flashed on the copy's face. Meanwhile, the real Liam grimaced deeply. This? No, Liam thought as his mind raced. There's no way the inheritance can copy the triumvirate body or my blood abilities. There's a limit to what even celestials can do. The copy's grin widened even more. Liam instantly felt unnerved. There was an uncanny valley feeling in his heart. This was him. But it was not him, and it definitely was not human. But then again, neither was Liam. I know what you're thinking, the copy said, perfectly imitating Liam's voice. He can't use my abilities, surely not. Liam narrowed his gaze at the copy. It speaks? Liam didn't like where the copy was going with this. Copy Liam's smile broadened. Tentacles suddenly sprouted from all over its body, the textures of which rapidly switched from furry, to scaly, to spiky. A moment later, blood spikes burst from the copy's body. The copy fixed his cold multicolored eyes at Liam, enjoying the shock-filled expression on his face. What exactly was this supposed to teach? Chapter 330 Fake. Liam and the Liam copy stared each other down. Silence. Liam's gaze narrowed coldly at the copy. In turn, the copy grinned mischievously. If you were really me, you'd know you're just a pawn, Liam said to the fake version of himself. You're not real. You're an obstacle for me to run through. The copy smiled coldly. And, he responded tersely. So what? What's the difference between you and me? I have the triumvirate body. I have blood manipulation. I have the ink shadow tattoos. And I have the king's eye. Nobody on the outside could tell the difference between you and me. Liam's eyes turned chillingly cold. But you didn't earn them, Liam said icily. You didn't cut down who I cut. You didn't yank out your own eyes. You didn't burn and freeze at the same time. You're a rendition. A fake. Matter of fact, why am I even talking to you? The copy simply grinned, but his eyes didn't smile. Liam's eyes couldn't get any colder than they already were. The copy was Liam. But obviously different and fake. If the copy was truly Liam, then there was only a small chance of fighting. But the copy just smiled at him. This meant that, although Liam and the copy shared powers, appearances, and looks, they had fundamental differences. Mainly, their ingrained purpose. Most likely the copy was either an incredibly powerful formation, or a one-time artifact that completely copied an individual's powers. If two exact clones of the same person met each other, and each of them knew who was real and who was the clone, their interaction would depend on who they were. If a reasonable, pragmatic individual was cloned, there was a high chance he and his copy could come to an agreement of some kind. Of letting the real body live. Of living in harmony. Of going their own ways. But Liam was different. If I was a copy, I'd kill my original and take over his life. It was a sad reality. But it was true. But that's just one possibility. If I knew I was in an inheritance, and this was all fake, I'd probably kill myself if I was the clone. For the greater purpose, Liam thought, his cold king's eye meeting the copy's king's eye. But the Liam copy was obviously not intent on doing the same. Come, then. Or are you scared? The copy asked Liam with a cold tone. Liam heaved a sigh and cleared his mind. Apparently, the copy couldn't attack him straight away. Liam had to initiate the battle to start. Good. So I can study what this is about. The copy said nothing as Liam looked up and down at it. It had the same techniques Liam had. Sword construct. Sword connection. Sword hardening. And all of Liam's unique powers. How does one exactly defeat themselves? What am I supposed to learn from this? Experience? Discipline? Understanding of self? Liam nearly cursed. Truthfully, all these riddles were boring and obnoxious. Liam didn't deny that they taught him important lessons, but still. I'm pretty sure I get one attempt. No second chances. This won't end unless either one of us dies. Liam's grip subconsciously grew tighter around his breaker blade, but his eyes looked calm. Nov, LB1N. The copy pretended to be bored, leaning against his own breaker blade and yawning. But Liam could tell the copy's guard was up. Silence. 30 minutes passed with this quiet but fragile atmosphere. At one point, Liam just started to cultivate in front of the copy. But the copy couldn't do anything to him, and neither did it cultivate. That only cemented Liam's belief that the copy wasn't him. As always, there was no answer to Liam's ponderings. Liam didn't realize it, but the one opponent he wouldn't face was himself. In his own words, he was a hard-to-die cockroach. The only way to find out is to get my hands dirty and start the fight. Liam's eyes grew fierce. But there's one thing I'm counting on that it can't copy. Liam picked up the breaker blade after finishing his cultivation. Then, he started to take slow steps towards the copy. The copy smiled, grabbed his breaker and slowly walked towards Liam. No words were exchanged. Then, they started to run at each other. The battle had begun. Liam was the first to send a mental attack spell. The piercing blade. An ethereal dark blade shot towards the copy's mental sphere, but it was faced with a darkness-coated sea of consciousness. It was the corrosive mind. Of course. They shared the same damn spells. Liam winced at a pang of pain shooting down his mind. But by then, the copy and Liam were face to face. Liam used transfiguration to empower his lower feet and arm muscles as he surged forward at the copy. The copy did the same. Both swung their breaker blades at each other. Clong! An ear-splitting noise caused a massive shockwave to spread through the fake dimension. Liam's arms wobbled hectically as the titanic sword sent rumbles through his insides. The copy went through the same thing. Anyone normal would have gone through organ failure due to the shockwaves going through their bodies. But Liam and the copy were not normal. Both were in a stalemate as they exerted force on each other's breaker blades. Their giant swords created sparks as they grinded against one another. Liam's gaze connected with the copies, but neither of them maintained it. After all, if the King's Eye managed to connect with either of their mental spheres, they could easily alter their perceptions of one another. Liam's breaker blade suddenly split in half. Shing! It transformed into dusk blades that promptly landed on Liam's grip, the chains wrapping around his arms. The copy did the same exact thing as he did. Two pairs of dusk blades clinked against each other one after the other. They had a small portion of the black blade's sharpness. Cling! Clang! Shing! Chapter 331 Personality. In rapid succession, the fake dimension clanged with sharp noises. It was like dozens of blacksmiths working together in the same small forge. That's how loud and fast the sounds were produced. As the fight went on, Liam realized that any move he did, the copy, copied it. It was like fighting a mirror. Any time Liam made a change in his fighting style, his copy did the same. At one point, Liam ordered out his blood bonds. His black hunter spider lurched out of his inner world along with the death wolf and apex hawk. On the copy's side, the same three creatures popped out and hashed it out. Promptly, the beasts killed each other off, and both parties decided that it took away too much blood from them. Right after, Liam changed his breaker into the black blade during a mid-swing at the copy. But the copy erected a sphere of crystallized blood as a defense. Liam easily cut through the sphere of rank 3 middle-tier blood. His odachi's sharpness was not a joke. The sphere was sliced into 1,000 pieces. But the copy was already back to safety. Liam flicked away the flakes of hardened blood on his sword and looked at his fake clone. I wouldn't have run to safety like that, Liam laughed at the copy. Even as a perfect imitation, you're lousy. The copy laughed loudly. NO//V/E/L-.B-1N. Is that how annoying my laugh is? Liam thought with furrowed brows. No wonder I don't laugh. Tendrils of darkness gathered around the copy in an instant. Slowly, they began to take a human form. Clones. 3 shadow clones, to be exact, had formed beside the copy. With a smirk on his face, the clone suddenly sank inside the shadows. Liam scoffed and did the same. 3 shadow clones formed beside him, and all 4 of them started to sink into the earth. The sea of darkness was as cold as ever, rippling with the slightest movement. Inside, Liam could feel the tiniest waves rippling towards him, feeding his senses with information. The triumvirate body's senses were sharpened to an amazing degree beneath the water. The shifter octopus was a sea creature, after all. It belonged to the water. No matter what kind. Despite this, Liam couldn't sense which one was the real copy and what was a shadow clone. The reason was fairly simple. The triumvirate body could sense heat and see color in different ways. It was basically a thermal vision ingrained into Liam's skin. But even thermal vision could be fooled. Snakes, lizards, and other reptilians could never be seen by it. Thus, all Liam had to do was make his body incredibly cold, which was entirely possible with his new body. This was what the copy was doing, too. However, the 6 shadow clones were visible to both of them. Liam's 3 clones scattered in different directions. They too could swim through the sea of darkness. When the clones separated from Liam's body, they still had the ink shadow tattoos on them, after all. Liam felt the copy's 3 shadow clones doing the same. One to the left, one in the middle, and one to the right. But the copy itself was hidden away. Everyone swam at the same altitude. Usually, the sea of darkness was incredibly vast and wide, but the fake dimension had restricted their battlefield greatly. Liam's shadow clones and the copy's shadow clones began to fight. All the while, they were hidden, waiting for an opportunity. Liam's clones weren't afraid of getting damaged. They were intent on killing the copy's clones as fast as possible and clearing the waters. Liam was silently inching forward, too, clearing away the waters to find the copy. Violent ripples spread from the sea of darkness. Liam's shadow clones kamikazed themselves into the copies. All 6 of the clones crumbled apart. At the same exact time, Liam felt a ripple different to the rest. With his black blade, Liam sent a series of slashes forward. Shing! But just like always, the copy did the same. It sent slashes towards Liam from the other side, forcing him to emerge from the water to dodge. Like so, both of them were above ground once again. Neither of them had any wounds. Not a drop of blood dropped from them. The copy smiled. You do realize that you're fighting yourself, right? Anything you think of, I'm thinking of it too, he said. But there's a glaring difference. The copy paused. Liam frowned, but remained quiet. The copy's smile broadened, and he laughed out the next words. I have no mental energy or aura limitations. Silence. Liam's eyes widened when he realized what the copy was saying was true. His aura never regressed despite all that fighting. Both his mental energy and core aura were as though he hadn't fought at all. A moment later, 3 more shadow clones formed to the copy's sides. Silence again. Only the copy's unsettlingly and maniacal laugh could be heard. All I have to do to win is survive until you're broken and beaten down. Then, I'll take your place in the world. Maybe I'll find a woman or two? It's boring being all alone. This place is constricting enough. You were right. I'm not like you personality-wise. But everything else is the same. And what a crappy personality you have. Liam lowered his head with a dark expression. Hate and rage emanated from his figure. His sword had become the breaker blade again, and the hilt was nearly crushed under his insane grip. The copy smiled and took slow steps towards Liam's figure. His clones did the same. Liam didn't react. His head was still down, an umbral darkness clouding his face. At once, the clones and the copy lurched at Liam. A quiet grin formed on Liam's lowered face. Right as the sword was about to split apart Liam's head, volatile red energies buzzed all over him, condensing to a single sphere 3 times the size of a basketball. The copy's eyes widened in shock. It couldn't copy chaos. Chapter 332 Existence. All of the chaos churned around Liam's body and converged to his head. The copy recoiled in shock. He saw it happen in real time, but he was too close to jump backwards to safety. Instead, the blood demon arts surged around his body and enveloped him in with knightly armor. Just as the sphere of chaos. Boom. Caught off guard, Liam copy was flung into the air like a stiff ragdoll. What Liam used was a rank 2 spell, Chaotic World. One he made before he entered the inheritance. Although it was a rank 2 spell, it had the destructiveness of a rank 4. All it did was swallow half of Liam's chaos reserves and shoot it outward. The copy's blood demon armor cracked and splintered under the weight of Liam's chaos. Liam was a fool if he let the opportunity slip away. With a burst of insane speed, he surged forward with his black blade, sending more than 30 instantaneous slashes towards the copy as he flew away. At the same time, he used all the umbral needles, blood spikes and sanguine strings he could. Then, before those attacks even landed, and before the copy landed on the ground, Liam's Odachi turned into the breaker blade, which rapidly sucked in darkness from his core. The copy flailed midair as he tried to erect his defenses. At once, his body turned thick and his bones dense, using all of his blood to defend and his shadows to empower it all. A mistake. Liam sank under the ground, tendrils of shadow wrapping around his body and yanking him to where the copy was going to land. At the same time, Liam started his swing with the empowered breaker blade. The copy wasn't stupid. He saw that Liam disappeared, but he didn't know where he went. The copy had the slashes, umbral needles, and sanguine strings to worry about, which he deflected midair with his sword. But by then, he landed just where Liam was waiting for him. And by then, Liam's swing hit full force against his back. A shower of blood and guts fell upon the stony platform. A muffled grunt rang out within the fake dimension. The right side of the copy's body was completely blown away by the breaker. At the last second, he tried to dodge by twisting away from the blade's edge, but it was too fast. Surprisingly, the copy had solid insides. Who would have thought? They were outside of his body now, though. However, the copy still wasn't dead. Like Liam said, he was a hard-to-die cockroach, and the copy tried to flee to safety once more, erecting another 3 shadow clones. Its aura reserves were endless, so even with such a deathly condition, it could cast such a heavy spell. But they were useless against Liam. Liam killed each with one instant swing, then arrived beside the copy again. Shing! 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 The breaker turned into the black blade and severed off the copy's limbs. Then, the black blade turned into the dusk blades and ripped into the copy's abdomen and stomach. KRSH. Spurt. Liam felt something crack under his blade's vicious edge. It was the copy's core. The copy screamed, lacking limbs and a core. His stomach was also punctured, oozing viscous blood. Once again, Liam towered over it. The dual-wielding swords had now become the Odachi once more, its tip pointed at the copy's neck. Gurg, the copy gurgled blood, laying across the floor in a near-death state. Glrgh. You're pathetic, Liam coldly said to the copy as it coughed mouthfuls of blood. What did you say a minute ago? Growled, the copy coughed again. It was so pathetic. I think I know what you are now, Liam said with cold eyes. end.He-L-B-I/N. Despite seeing himself dying, Liam didn't have a dramatic reaction. It was a surreal experience. But truthfully, Liam had imagined himself dying thousands of times already. Every time he fought. Every time he picked up a sword. Every time someone handed him a drink, even someone he trusted. Liam imagined himself dying as a result. This was his paranoia. This was the difference between him and the copy. Despite how Liam had chaos and the copy didn't, he still understood something from the trial. You're what I'm afraid of becoming, Liam said. Something vain that lost its purpose. Liam took a deep breath, then exhaled, his menacing gaze fixed to the dying copy. If I forget my purpose, you're what I'll become. I am what I am because of who I am. Even if you take the slightest piece away from that, I crumble apart. Liam swiped his black blade upwards. The copy's face split open like a flower made of flesh. I must be wary of change. So, what exactly happened? Firstly, Liam noticed how there was no chaos in the copy's aura. From his own solar plexus, there were volatile red energies radiating in a controlled but unstable fashion. The copy did not have this. Thus, Liam silently baited out the copy throughout the fight, just in case it was hiding his chaotic abilities. Liam refrained from using his own chaos, too, just in case it would alert the copy of something amiss. The copy was not hiding anything. He didn't have it at all. There was a simple conclusion, and a not-so-simple conclusion. The simple reason being, the inheritance could not imitate the Chaos Pearl. In fact, it couldn't imitate Liam's Ashura strength. However, Eternal Sword's inheritance basically had full control over those inside it. Thus, the copy was strengthened to match Liam's physical strength. On the other hand, the triumvirate body was not as difficult and rare as an Ashura's physique or chaotic abilities. It just consisted of a shifter's elasticity and free-flowing flesh. The same went for Liam's blood. Any liquid could be crystallized to imitate what his blood could do. And Ashura was an ancient creature. Back from the 1,000-year war period. The Eternal Sword was from an old age. Perhaps he lived at the same time as the Ashuras. But there was little chance, if any at all, that he was capable of stealing and copying an Ashura's power. Even with his celestial status. Whatever Liam was supposed to learn from this test, Liam learned something else in its stead. There was an error. That error was Liam himself. Anyone else, this trial might have taught the importance of experience or discipline or blah, blah, blah. That's probably what Twilight was going through. But with his existence alone, Liam ruined that entire notion. Chapter 333 Uncombinable. Liam heaved a long sigh. Of all his battles, this was surprisingly the easiest and most difficult at the same time. All Liam had to do was feign weakness for long enough, then whip out his chaos. But fighting himself opened Liam's mind to just how arduous of an opponent he really was. And if he had to fight against his own chaos? That'd be even worse. Sucks for his enemies. Right as Liam split apart the copy's face, it died excruciatingly. And Liam watched without blinking. Even if it was a trial, Liam didn't appreciate his powers being replicated just like that. But, why was I able to use everything? Wasn't this a sword battle between two swordsmen? Something was fishy about this trial. Liam couldn't put his finger on it, but it just didn't fit the theme of the inheritance as a whole. The sinking feeling in Liam's stomach grew just a little deeper. The anxiety that came with his paranoia was both a blessing and a curse. More of a curse, though. As soon as the copy died, bits and pieces of its flesh slowly turned to white ash and pearly smoke. Foof. Like so, the copy faded away, and the eternal sword's voice came. A sword can only get sharper when it faces the fire. For some. Silence. A stutter. Again. Followed by a slight tremor running across the fake dimension. The eternal sword went silent. Liam frowned. 7 seconds of silence passed. But what makes your sword sharp depends on how you wield it. Silence. The words ended there. There was nothing more to it. Liam grimaced deeply, his mind shooting like lightning in different directions. This confirms it. This inheritance is bugging out. It's failing. What made Liam come to that conclusion? What Eternal Sword said had absolutely no relation to what Liam just did. With how the Eternal Sword phrased his words, Liam probably had to develop his own sword style. But instead, he fought tooth and nail, and eventually won with his chaos of all things. Not his sword. Even worse, Liam still lacked a unique sword style. This meant that using abilities had to have been disallowed by the rules of the trial. But they weren't. And even worse, his copy was a malicious prick. Was that part of the test, too? Or was that also part of the series of glitches that kept happening? What exactly did Liam walk into? And where was the reward? Liam's chest sank. No reward? No reward? There was no dais. No rune. No addicting motes of light. Nothing. Eternal sword, eh? You can shove your sword right up. The 6th trial gate opened up opposite Liam. It cast bright rays of light inside the dark fake dimension and stopped Liam mid-curse. Liam lowered his head in defeat and let out a tired sigh. The reward was probably supposed to be the sword technique I developed. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and Liam failed to seize it to its full potential. It wasn't every day that he'd get to fight himself and figure out his mistakes, what he did wrong and what not. Liam sighed again. It is what it is. Before heading into the next trial, Liam wanted to investigate the fake dimension a little more. He needed to know if there was an escape route. Or, at the very least, find out what trial Twilight was in. If there was a way for the two to work together to get out, Liam could tolerate the woman. Momentarily. Thus, Liam made his way to the walls of the fake dimension after a week of rest and meditation. Liam arrived at an invisible barrier. Although it seemed like the fake dimension stretched as far as the eye could see, it was an obvious illusion. Tuck, tuck. Liam knocked twice on the barrier. Using his shadow, transfiguration and semi-transformation, he then punched it. Bang! Liam's punch rippled across the invisible wall. It didn't even wobble. As expected, the wall wasn't damageable. Right after, he attempted to cut it with his various swords. Nothing happened. Liam tried his chaos next. Red energy swirled over his body and condensed at the back of his heel, upon which he did a spinning back kick to the wall. Bang! For a second, it seemed like his chaos had an effect. It caused the point where focused havoc hit to flicker iridescently. But it quickly reformed back to normal. A few more tests showed that no matter what spell Liam would use at it, the wall would reform almost instantly. There was no escape. 3.5 weeks passed. To prepare for the next trial, the 6th, Liam needed much more time. He didn't even have the necessary requirement that the 5th trial was supposed to give him. Attempting to make a style of sword fighting also resulted in a failure. Only during times of a real battle could you truly understand what you do wrong, and what you do right. And Liam's sole adversary, a copy of himself, was dead. All he did was tweak his swords and added a few enhancement inscriptions on them. I'm just 1 week away advancing to the liquid stage. But I'll explode if I keep this off any longer. Here goes nothing, Liam thought, taking a wary step through the 6th trial. End.0 Veld 1N. In his hand was the base long sword that the sword construct came with. As soon as Liam entered through, his eyes widened as much as they could. There, in the center of the fake dimension, was a giant marble boulder. It was massive. Almost 3 times the size of the previous boulders Liam had to cut in half. Before Liam could let out a nasty swear, the Eternal Sword spoke first. Combine your elements and split the stone in half. There were no enemies in this trial. Nothing to kill. Just a challenge to overcome. But this? Liam would rather fight another copy, honestly. Liam's darkness and chaos was like water and fire. Like oil and water. They were damn uncombinable. Chapter 334 Breakthrough. Liam's chaos never mixed with his darkness. The repulsion effect of his primordial essence was too powerful. Even if Liam lessened his chaos density and tried to overwhelm it with his gaseous, liquid or solid darkness, nothing worked. It didn't help that as Liam's chaos pearl grew stronger, the more difficult the task seemed. However, Liam had a plan. In fact, this trial of all things coincided with what Liam wanted to learn. This was a project, and he was now forced to solve it. It was the silver lining. Liam didn't need to fight. All he had to do was solve this issue, and he could do several things in between. Now that it's come to this, I'll have to force a breakthrough. It'll take a week at most, Liam thought. But first, Liam had to test out a few things. Gripping his black blade and empowering his arms, Liam swung vertically across the massive boulder. Shing! The Odachi went through roughly 1 meter in but immediately stopped. Well, that's strange. The 1,000-some boulders Liam had cut down were all roughly 5 meters in length and width. This one was a massive 8.5 meters, and it was hardened and empowered compared to the rest. If Liam had to guess, this had the combined rigidity of a dozen or so boulders combined. And he was supposed to cut it in half. I don't even know if I could combine darkness and chaos, let alone use it to cut this thing in half. The more Liam thought about the trial at hand, the more his brows furrowed. Then again, it was a known fact that humans, not that Liam was a human, performed supernaturally under pressure. And Liam had an ace up his sleeve. A foundational spell that hadn't been developed yet. An amazing discovery made only by him. The black hole. It was the only plausible way for Liam's darkness to work together with the uncontrollable chaos. Darkness was mendable. It didn't have a fixed form, and with the black hole, it could become a powerful gravitational force. Only, this all depended on what Liam made it. After all, the black hole spell didn't even have a rank. It had no offensive capabilities, nor any defensive abilities. It was a blank canvas. Liam sat cross-legged and heaved a sigh. He outstretched both hands, making his palms face towards the fake sky. On Liam's right hand, a black vortex the size of a dot appeared. It sucked in the air and space around it. Slowly, it grew in size, releasing a slow hum as it did so. Shh. On Liam's left hand, a dot of chaos grew. It shrieked the air, repulsing the air and bending space. N-0 Velben. One could easily see the differences between the two elements. The black hole, although a devastating force of nature, was quiet, gentle and stable. The chaos, however, was the complete opposite. Loud, destructive and volatile. Even in the smallest way, there were differences between absorption and repulsion. How the heck was Liam supposed to mix these? Liam slowly clasped his palms together, cupping them around each other and enclosing the two forces between his tightening hands. Liam used his mental energy to maintain the two forces, but he felt the black hole slowly weaken. When Liam's palms rubbed against each other, the black hole simply puffed out of existence. It was gone. Only the piece of chaos remained, wriggling between Liam's palms to escape. Liam unclasped his hands. Boom! A slight shockwave spread as the dot of chaos exploded outward. As I thought, Liam thought with furrowed brows. The black hole is too weak. In contrast, the repulsion of chaos is too powerful. If I can make the black hole a strong enough spell. It has to strengthen the absorption effect, though. It doesn't have to be offensive or defensive. Just a plain, sucking force that absorbs air and matter. But Liam had a premonition that the spell needed to be around the fourth rank to work. His chaos was powerful. Much stronger compared to his gaseous stage core. But Liam was close to advancing. I just need a week to break through. That way, the darkness I produce will be much stronger, and by extension, so will the black hole. Liam paused everything else and threw his head into cultivating. One after the other, he swallowed pills that gave his core extra protection and durability. His cultivation technique was extremely dangerous. For that reason, he couldn't really swallow pills that doubled or tripled his progress speed. If he did, he'd most likely explode. And he didn't want to explode. For the next week, all Liam did was meditate, rest, and cultivate. Obviously, Liam didn't bring any human corpses to devour with him inside the inheritance. Yusin had told him that was a bad idea. If a rank 6 zenith wanted to, they could see through the space rings and deduce what was in them. And imagine seeing someone's space ring filled to the brim with dead corpses. Even Quan would be disturbed. Finally, after a week and a half, Liam concluded his cultivation session. And at 21 years old, plus 7 months, Liam was officially a liquid-stage cultivator. The contents in his core were now pure liquid, and brimming with energy. Liam raised his right hand and a tiny black vortex formed above it. Liam smiled. It was definitely stronger. Its absorption rate was also faster. So was its gravitational pull. It was still faint and amounted to pulling the locks of hair from Liam's head, but still. All it did was make the base form slightly stronger. I still haven't added anything yet. Liam raised his left hand and a dot of chaos surged above it. Shh. Liam tried combining the two again. He felt both forces clash and fight between themselves, but once again, the chaos came out on top. Boom. Then it exploded. I guess I'll make a spell for the black hole first, Liam thought, taking out a large blank canvas. I just hope this works. Chapter 335 Harmony. Ever since Liam's body had become a triumvirate, the color of his eyes were no longer fixed. He could make them white, black, green, and even rainbow. It was for this reason that his eyes were no longer bloodshot and dead tired when he inscribed or forged. Even if Liam's head rumbled like a thunderstorm, and his vision swam, his eyes looked normal. Which it currently was. Every day, ever since becoming a rank 3 magus, Liam had trained with the 4th psionic rune. Then, at times where he didn't have much to do, he'd bolster its progress by adding powerful beast wills to store and cook. All of this made his reflexes and mental fortitude incredibly potent and precise. Truthfully speaking, the 4th rank of the Sea of Consciousness was actually close. Liam was in the 3rd rank of the Sea of Consciousness for some time now. But at the same time it was far. Such was the case with all of Liam's mental advancements, and he stopped trying to predict them. Liam began inscribing. His blood-tipped fingers traced the lines of the canvas, ranging from wide gestures to small, minute details. Now and again, Liam would take a wide step back and assess the entire canvas before moving on. It was like an artist drawing their masterpiece. Liam tuned out all sounds from his mind. There was no sound to begin with, but besides the task at hand, any thought that didn't belong to making the black hole spell just died away. The previous trials helped Liam retain focus. All of his thoughts were refined like blades. The key to solving their balance issues is creating a harmony between absorption and repulsion. I've already studied both of them and their differences. That's how Liam made the black hole spell in the first place. But now I have to apply harmony and make sure the forces are balanced with one another. For this, Liam had to repeat the black hole and chaos mixing test over and over. Basically, the chaos had to be a small amount. It couldn't go above the size of a fingertip. Any further, and any strengthened version of Liam's black hole will get ruined by its repulsion. But that wouldn't take away from the mixing as a whole. Liam's chaos was a densely packed energy. It was pure potential energy that, once made kinetic, literally imploded under the weight of its power. This was also why Liam's chaos was so damn unstable. It wanted to explode, but wasn't allowed to. So, even a small amount of chaos equaled a large amount of darkness. However, finding the perfect size for both forces was incredibly difficult. For example, a kilogram of feathers is the same mass as a kilogram of steel. However, to classify as a kilogram, they required varying amounts. A tiny piece of steel equaled a giant bag of feathers. This was essentially what Liam was doing. Essentially, both had to be equal, but also had to differ in size, which was hard to do without a scale to measure them. To compensate, Liam basically did a warmer-colder strategy. If a change in size was wrong, he'd revert and pick a different direction to go to, and so on. And damn if it didn't make his brain hurt. 2.5 months passed. Liam heaved a very long, tired exhale. His multicolored eyes drooped from exhaustion. He was laying on the grass with his arms spread to his sides. Finally, the black hole spell was done. A rank 4 spell. Liam made a zenith spell with just a rank 3C of consciousness. It was an amazing feat. However, one might think differently once they realize what the spell did. It didn't increase offensive ability, nor did it provide defense, nor did it increase his prowess in any way, shape or form. It was built to suck. Liam sat upwards and raised his right hand. Like usual, a small vortex appeared. But unlike normal, the gravitational force of the black hole was already pulling Liam's hair. Liam forced away a smile. He couldn't help feeling a bit prideful since he actually succeeded in making a zenith technique. Slowly, the vortex grew. And grew. Until finally becoming the size of a human head. The gravitational pull was now immense, and the hum produced by the black hole was incredibly loud. Air was being sucked into it rapidly, but it made no churning noise. The air swirled around it to form a horizontal ring around it, sort of like an accretion disk a real black hole came with. Liam felt like his body was being pulled towards the black hole, but a technique could not hurt its caster. Theoretically, Liam could kill with this technique, even if it wasn't built for murder. If even a normal human slapped it, the gravitational pull would disappear, and the black hole would stop working. But left undisturbed, the black hole could basically make a mess of a person's insides, pulling away their organs and flesh. Nevertheless, Liam stored those thoughts for another time. Liam raised his left hand. N-O/V-L/B-I-N. Please work, please work, please work, Liam thought with furrowed brows. I'm done with this damn place. Chaos churned on his left hand. Sh. Beginning as a dot, it grew to the size of a human eyeball. This was the ratio Liam used. The black hole was the head, and the chaos was an eyeball. It was fitting, all things considered. But now, the pieces had to fit together. Slowly, with hope-filled eyes, Liam brought the two pieces together. The black hole's gravitational pull seemed to affect the chaos's repulsion effect. Slowly, the loud shrieking noise the chaos produced was no longer as loud and obnoxious. It was like the sound of pouring rain. Yes, it was still chaotic, but the black hole had given it a gentle quality. The same could be said for the black hole. Its gentle humming noise went from loud to slightly quiet, but without losing its distinctive property. Their qualities were rubbing off on one another. This was a good sign. Then, Liam clasped his hands together. Chapter 336 Vacuum. Liam put the two forces together. Obviously, the black hole was still the size of a human head. But one had to remember that Liam had the triumvirate body. His hands had already grown almost 4 times the size and width to compensate for the mixing test. Both his hands basically conjoined together, leaving no gaps in between. It was sealed airtight. Using his mental energy, he monitored the reaction that happened between his palms. There was no issue for some time. The absorption and repulsion forces rubbed off on one another. Through the exchange, Liam's chaos gained a slightly calmer quality, but without losing its wildness. And the black hole was slowly becoming disorderly, but without losing any of its intrinsic properties. As it continued to change and reform, Liam had to strengthen his hands to withstand the experiment. For some reason, the heat radiating from Liam's palms was stupidly immense. But at the same time, there was a chilling cold that shot pangs of ice through Liam's veins. In fact, Liam's skin and flesh was slowly melting and freezing at the same time. But before they could interrupt and ruin the test, Liam healed and reformed the wounds with his blood. The melted skin healed up, while the frozen skin retracted into Liam's flesh. All the while, Liam's brows were furrowed. In truth, combining repulsion and absorption was basically impossible. Liam was basically pulling out an imaginary mass. This mass literally didn't exist. There was no physical form of harmony or balance. Obviously, they existed, but it wasn't a material thing. 2 minutes passed. Gradually, the reactions between the two forces were getting more and more intense. Liam was slowly combining the two together, after all, his clasped hands tightening as the seconds ticked by. By now, the ice felt similar to sub-zero temperatures. And the heat felt similar to dipping one's hands into molten lava. 3 more minutes passed. Slowly, the fluctuating temperatures came to stabilize. The boiling heat dimmed to a gentle warmth. The chilling cold dimmed to a cool frost. Liam's blood no longer needed to reform the gruesome wounds on his hands. The mixing test was slowly coming to a resolution. But it felt more like a climax. Both the chaos and the black hole were swirling around each other, combining their colors. Bright red and dark blue. Liam's black hole spell wasn't actually pure black. It had a dark blue tint to it. And what would these colors produce? Purple. Liam saw the color slowly changing in real time as the two forces were merging as one. When this would complete, it would no longer be chaos or darkness. It was a purely new substance. 1 second passed. 2 seconds passed. 3 seconds passed. 4 seconds, then 5. Then, it happened. There was no explosion. There was no boom. No extremely loud sound effect. In fact, there was dead silence. But when the merging was complete, a small, bright purple mass appeared in between Liam's hands. It was the size of a baseball. But there was no happiness on Liam's face despite the success. In fact, his eyes were widened in pain, and his face was twisted in a grimace. Why? When the merging was complete, Liam's hands were clasped together tightly. As soon as the purple substance was formed, Liam's hands disappeared. They were literally erased from existence. Liam didn't even have time to curse. It happened so fast that Liam was dumbstruck as to what just happened. Blood didn't even seep from the wound. Like he was born with just his wrists alone. It looked like even his body was too stunned to react. All of it happened in a fraction of a second. Beads of sweat formed all over Liam's body. The purple mass of matter lingered for a few seconds in the air. It was still silent and unmoving. Then, after 3 seconds, it shrunk in size and disappeared. When it puffed out of existence, it left a black void where it formed. It was literally a hole in space. A vacuum. And like all vacuums, they needed to be filled. In this case, space and matter rapidly rushed in to fill the black gap. WHSHHHHHHH. An ear-splitting vacuuming noise was produced as a result. As the hole in space filled up, everything from all directions was pulled in. Including Liam. The black void literally wanted to absorb and devour Liam whole. Liam was pulled in headfirst without being able to do anything as a defense. He felt his whole body elongating. He was gonna die. But before the black void could devour him, the space fracture filled itself. However, Liam was still flung a distance of 45 meters as a result of its gravitational pull. When he stopped tumbling, Liam rose to his feet and glanced at where his hands once were. They were just a stump now, oozing blood. Liam's heart was beating heavily in his chest. There was so much adrenaline pumping through his veins, he didn't register the pain of losing both hands. Either that, or he was just too shocked. His eyes were as widened as they could be. What, even was that? Using transfiguration, tendrils of flesh, bone and nerves reformed Liam's hands. Liam's skin went pale as a result. His mind raced to what just happened. Bright red and dark blue made bright purple. That was the most obvious change that occurred, meaning the two forces were successfully combined. But it was that catastrophic? Not to mention, to himself? Liam almost died, for crying out loud. No spell or technique was capable of hurting its caster. But this thing gave Liam the middle finger and took away his hands. But there was also a logical explanation to this. If chaos was the repulsion of matter, and the black hole was the absorption of matter, then their combined efforts was the deletion of matter itself. An imaginary mass that wasn't supposed to exist, and thus, when applied to reality, vanishes and takes whatever it can with it. N/1B1N. But this mass needed a name. Something so incredibly potent and powerful, but cruel and dangerous to its caster. And Liam thought of the gaping hole it left in space and matter. Void. Chapter 337 Prophet. Liam named the new mass Void. It fits, seeing how it literally tears matter apart like it's paper. When his initial fear slowly calmed down, a conflicted grin formed on Liam's lips. Void was so damn strong. It literally punctured a hole in reality. But just like all of Liam's abilities, it was more dangerous to himself than other people. Though, this was obviously a test trial, and Liam wasn't expecting such a reaction. However, this didn't take away from the weaknesses of such a power. For one, Void's cast time. It took roughly 5 minutes to cast just a small amount of it. Although 5 minutes wasn't a lot, a skilled opponent could easily take advantage of that time. Then came the matter of actually controlling the purple substance. As soon as the chaos and black hole combined with each other, the void simply lingered. It didn't move at all. However, Liam did feel a connection with it. It was incredibly vague, though. It felt like a single, wafer-thin string attached to the tip of his finger. After this problem, was the gravitational pull that came as a result of matter filling in the void. It sucked in everything inside. Liam had to treat his void like a grenade without a pin. Why can't my techniques use mental energy or aura? Liam sighed. Still, void is still an incredible ability. I can probably fine-tune some of the issues with it. There shouldn't be any need for me to clasp my hands together, since it already works. Instead, I can make both of them float above my fingers. It would work all the same. But with all that said, NO/V/ELB1/N. Liam glanced at the massive boulder. How exactly am I supposed to slash this boulder with it? Shaping chaos and simulating a fake black hole was hard enough. Now he had to shape void to fit with his swords? Damn it. Just when I thought this was going to end, Liam thought with a scowl. Twilight is going to have it much easier than me, too. For other dual elementalists, their elements combined within their cores. But Liam's two elements came from differing centers of power. For this reason, Twilight was probably already in the next trial. I just hope she got the same glitches that I got. If she's developed a style, this won't end well. Liam heaved a long sigh. He had his own ideas as to why they were split up and tested on their own. At first glance, there didn't seem to be a reason for their separation. But on a second glance, one could easily see what the Eternal Sword intended. Who was the worthier, smarter, and more talented student? Step 1, have 2 subjects enter your inheritance. Step 2, have them trained in the same ways. Step 3, have them duel each other. Step 4, call the victor your heir. Prophet. At least, that's how Liam saw it. Back to the task at hand, Liam raised both hands. After his blood was used to regenerate his hands, he'd lost a good chunk of his blood. But he had a feeling he'd lose a couple more hands after this. Nevertheless, Liam gritted his teeth and did what he had to do. Liam raised his fingers. He wrapped his middle finger around his index, making a knot. Shh. On his right index, a black hole, on his left index, chaos. Except, Liam did no clasping motion of any kind. Instead, he simply made a slow-moving gesture and brought both fingers together. At the same time, Liam began to rapidly spin around himself. From an outsider's view, what Liam was doing looked retarded. He was just spinning around himself. People would point and laugh. But Liam was doing it for a reason. When chaos and the black hole merged, the void that came as a result was the size of a baseball. And if it worked the way Liam thought it did, it was throwable. As of now, Liam had no idea how to combine his void with his swordsmanship. In fact, he was pretty sure it was impossible with something like void. After all, void wasn't picky with what it devoured. It would no doubt kill his swords. That's why Liam opted for a more eccentric way of dealing with the trial. Although Eternal Sword's words implied just the usage of swords were allowed to split the boulder, the past few trials had drifted past their intended purposes. Liam continued spinning for 5 minutes straight. That was the time required for his chaos and the black hole to merge together. He used transfiguration to make his body as light as he could, just to reduce the air resistance. Right now, Liam needed all the speed he could possibly muster. Despite how fast he was spinning, Liam was not dizzy in any way. Even rank 3 bodies were basically immune to dizziness. Liam felt the two forces merging once again. Red to purple, blue to purple. It was here. Void. Liam used all the force in his body to throw the ball of void towards the middle section of the boulder. But if he threw it bluntly, it wouldn't split the boulder from top to bottom. It would go straight through. But using his faint connection with the imaginary mass, Liam shaped the void as thin as he possibly could. Using both fingers, he pulled them in opposite directions. The void thinned out. It worked. Liam lost 4 fingers on each hand as a result. Deleted like they never existed. But he was actually satisfied. Due to his spinning motion, the streak of void rapidly shot forward as a single line. It looked as though reality itself had been cut. Like a mirror had split cleanly in one half, sliding past each other. Even strengthened, the boulder could not face the bright purple slash. It cleanly split from top to bottom, deleting everything in between. There was a gravitational pull that followed when the split matter wanted to reform, but since it was so thinned out, it disappeared quickly. Liam dropped to his back. Finally. Chapter 338 Hone. Liam heaved a long sigh after the events of the 6th trial were done with. The migraines. The constant repetitions. The loss of limbs and bodily organs. The damn boulders. Liam despised boulders now. If I ever see a big rock in the open again, I'm gonna crush it into rubble, Liam thought with furrowed brows. A sudden rumble shook the fake dimension. Liam felt the ground shake, almost throwing him to the side, but his feet were firmly placed to the ground. Liam cursed. Slowly, the fake dimension stabilized. Opposite him, the 7th trial gate opened. Then came Eternal Sword's voice. It was deeper now. Glitchier and distorted. When O1 is given a blessing, they must use it to th the fullest P potential. Damn it, it's getting worse and worse, Liam cursed inwardly. What am I gonna see in the next trial? The last thing he wanted to die to was an inheritance error. For now, Liam put those thoughts aside. Right now, he had a massive problem to worry about. Last trial, he received nothing as a reward. He felt a pang of regret and spiritual pain when that happened. Now, Liam held his breath. If it happens again, I'm using void and tearing a hole through this place to escape. If I don't receive a reward now, I probably won't receive any in future trials, Liam thought with furrowed brows. Liam didn't throw away the idea of escaping once and for all. He didn't test it yet, but he was sure that void was able to poke a hole through the fake dimension's invisible walls. It cut through air and matter itself. Everything else was also susceptible to its deletion. So, if everything went belly up, Liam wasn't going to take any chances. 10 seconds of silence passed. Something started to emerge from the grass. Liam almost heaved a sigh of relief, but he waited to confirm what it was. Slowly, his multicolored eyes widened with shock. A lovely marble dais emerged from the ground. But on its surface were 2 blinding white runes instead of 1. Liam got twice the profit. Not to mention, surrounding the dais were 4 different pills. Their pungent bitter, sweet and sour smells permeated the air. Each one of them looked different to one another. One of them looked like it was made from jade. Another one looked golden with ornate designs on its surface. A third was purely black. A fourth was purely white. Liam approached the dais with a greedy glimmer in his eyes and a wicked grin on his lips. It was about damn time he was rewarded. Gently, he picked up the runes and crushed them one after the other. One half of the motes of light melted in Liam's sea of consciousness. But the other half didn't. Instead, it reformed into a line and solidified inside Liam's mental sphere. Then, it turned as sharp as a blade. Inside Liam's head. Liam grumbled. He didn't like where this was going. As if answering the bad feeling he had, the motes of light lurched at the golden barrier of Liam's mind. Shing! Liam fell to his knees with a jolt of pain. Surprisingly, even his eyes went bloodshot, which they usually never did. That's how badly it hurt. Liam felt like someone incised a portion of his brain. It felt dreadful. A full hour passed of Liam simply clutching his head in pain. Most of his mental energy had regressed in volume due to the pressure it faced. By now, half a quarter remained of the full amount. N.O.V.E/L-B/I.N. But slowly, the agony dimmed. At the same time, the slash caused by the motes of light slowly settled on Liam's golden barrier wall. It was one with Liam's mind. Liam stumbled to his feet and let out a long groan. When the pain became bearable, Liam felt the urge to smile, but didn't. What happened? Well, the 2 techniques Liam received were pretty good in their own right. The first was the one that melted in his mind. The technique was called hone. Liam raised his right hand. Whoosh! It surged with glowing dark flames, dancing wildly in his palm. Ever since Liam had advanced to the liquid stage of the 3rd rank, his darkness lasted way longer. It could linger on a wound for minutes even, without puffing out. It even had an airy black glow to it, like a real flame. Liam used hone. Suddenly, the dark flames on Liam's hand constricted to a different form. It grew vertical and narrow, turning into a slash. Liam inspected the piece of darkness. It was still made from a mixture of gaseous and liquid darkness. But it had turned incredibly sharp. Liam could hold and handle the piece of sharpened darkness like it was an actual solid. Liam threw the slash forward. As it made contact with the ground, it exploded into a wad of flames, lingering for a few minutes, before gradually puffing away. It was a rank 3 liquid stage attack, just like that. It could even rival a spell. But it didn't end there. Liam cut off a bit of his mental energy and put it in front of himself. With the king's eye, Liam added a bit of iridescent color into the mental waves. Then, he used hone. Slowly, Liam's mental energy became a blade. With it, he could not cut the flesh. But he could cut the mind. Hone basically meant that anything that was material and mendable, Liam could make it sharp. That included his chaos and void. Liam raised his hand and a ball of chaos shrieked in the air. Using hone, the chaotic energies were forcibly turned into a mini-sized slash. Zzz. Although the edge was slightly sharp, chaos was too volatile to be used for cutting. Liam threw it at a patch of grass. As it soared the air, it created a loud buzzing noise. Boom! The slash exploded. Hone, on its own, wasn't that strong. Sure, it allowed anything to attain a sharp quality. But that was the extent of it. Just sharpness. However, it also grew alongside Liam's centers of power. Chapter 339 Black Blade. Once Liam's sea of consciousness grew to a higher rank, or got stronger in general, Hone's sharpness would increase. The same went with the core. Even a substage advancement would greatly benefit Liam's power. However, Liam was obviously not using Hone to its fullest potential. If he used a large amount of his aura reserves, he could create one giant slash to throw. It would be slower, but much more destructive. But it would also strip him of his ability to use other abilities in exchange. However, Liam imagined what this power could give to someone like Ucladd, or just a powerhouse in general. They could create a massive slash with just the aura in their cores, then let it loose and raise an entire country. Maybe that's why only Liam, and that other girl, had these abilities. It was the Eternal Sword's life's work. A spark of excitement ignited in Liam's chest. Just now, he imagined conjuring up a devastating mass of void and sending it flying towards the royals of Ikoria. What a sight that would be! A wicked grin formed on Liam's face. But then he remembered the queen's grin, and his smile slowly faded. As much as I'd enjoy that sight, I'm still an ant fantasizing about killing a dragon. Soon, though. Soon. Liam's smirk reformed when he focused on the second technique he received. Mind Edge. That was the name of the technique. It was the single line that formed on Liam's mental sphere. When Liam looked at it again, it wasn't just a line. It was two lines, but they were incredibly close to each other, leaving a gap in between them. So, what could this line do? Liam sat cross-legged. A massive glob of mental energy left his mind sea and floated towards the line, filling it. Liam kept feeding it more and more mental energy. In a few moments, it swallowed more than half of Liam's mental energy. Liam went a little pale. But when his black mental waves finally filled the line, Liam's vision constricted. Everything constricted. Everything turned into a line. It was like Liam was seeing through the end of a needle. In reality, it was just Liam's focus being so sharp, he saw everything through some sort of hyperclarity. Was this what cocaine felt like? Probably. But times 100. Liam's focus had never been this keen before. Also, his thoughts were like shooting in every direction like wild lightning. Having this much focus was utterly surreal. All his senses were overwhelming, and all he could do was sit there until it was over. Liam didn't even breathe. 3 seconds passed. Liam's vision was no longer a needle point. It was over. Just 3 seconds. He let out a shaky breath. Damn. That was an out-of-body experience. Liam thought, amazed. All abilities had their drawbacks. For this, it was crystal clear. In exchange for hyperfocus, Liam had to sacrifice a massive amount of mental energy. More than half, actually. But this wasn't the only issue. Although Mind Edge gave him hyperfocus, there was an issue. It gave him too much focus. So, if he was to use Mind Edge in a fight, for 3 seconds, he would only see that person. Everything else would literally be zoomed out of focus. If Liam faced another attack in the span of time that he used Mind Edge, then he wouldn't even notice it. This issue was already relayed to him through the motes of light. The Eternal Sword had made this mental enhancement himself. But he made a mistake. Instead of making the focus spread throughout all parts of the cultivator's mind, he only made it so it could pinpoint one task at a time. So, in truth, having too much focus was actually a bad thing. All it could do is help me turn the tides in a tricky spot, but if I'm not careful, it could get me killed. Neat. Talk about a double-edged sword. I won't complain, though, end.0 Velben. Liam glanced at the 4 pills next. Truth be told, he was a bit wary of swallowing them. There were certain bad memories with consuming foreign pills. Nevertheless, Liam was going to eat them anyway, but not without strengthening his innards. Cultivators could tell whether or not certain pills were dangerous. But Liam didn't feel like that with these 4. Liam picked the first one. The jade pill. From the 4, this looked the most expensive and clean. Please give me an advancement to the solid stage, Liam thought, popping the pill. Or maybe increase my bodily strength? 10 minutes passed. Liam was disappointed. The jade pill did nothing for his power to increase. Instead, the drug simply added a sharp quality to Liam's eyes. If someone were to look at Liam now, or if Liam were to look at someone else, they'd feel like a sharp blade was being pointed towards them. Or, they'll feel thousands of little needles pricking their skin. It all depended on how strong or weak they were. I've heard the rumor that the eternal sword could kill people with a glare. Is this why? So it wasn't really an ability, just a trick of the mind. Liam laughed to himself. This was also fine. Moving on, Liam swallowed the next pill. The ornate golden one. Instantly, Liam's left arm was basked in a golden glow. It lingered for a few minutes, but when the light regressed, there was a tattooed sigil of a black odachi. It was one with Liam's skin, and looked strangely like his black blade? It actually was. Liam Royce, the Eternal Sword's voice rang out within the fake dimension. It didn't glitch. Henceforth, known as the Black Blade. Liam felt his skin rise. Prepare for your final trial. Liam's eyes widened. Liam felt pure pride radiating from his black blade. Discontent from his dusk blades. And brooding but proud silence from the breaker. It's coming to an end. I'll be facing her soon, if that's what the final trial is. I'd better swallow these 2 remaining pills and get on with it, then. Chapter 340 Chaos to Order. The final trial. A lot weighed on this moment. A lot. This alone could shift the tides of politics above the surface. A celestial's inheritance was not a joke. End.He. If Twilight won, the Moyong family would no doubt regain absolute authority, if they didn't already have it. But with Eternal Sword's inheritance, they could spread their roots. Head to different countries and even finance a war for land and more resources. Heck, some countries might even give them land on their own accord. Like Liam, Twilight was going to be made a soldier, and the Moyong family was filthy rich with resources. In about 10 to 20 years, Rien might as well become Alali's face and symbol. Not if Liam killed her before then. If, when I get out of this place, the royals would want to kill me more than ever, Liam thought. Currently, he was idly flipping the purely white and black pills in his hands, mulling over his circumstances. But they won't be able to. They might even want peace with us. There's no reason for them to offend a rapidly growing organization. The Temple of Shadow was like any other clan in Alali, now. They weren't shunned, and Yusin was no longer hailed as a war criminal. They can't afford to make a potential enemy of a Celestial's heir, either. Liam remembered Queen Thyra's sadistic, perverted grin. It made him shudder a bit. Ugh. Maybe not. Silence. It's been more than a year since I've been in this place, Liam realized. A year and 4 months, to be exact. Liam was worried about the current state of affairs. Was the Temple of Shadow safe? Was Yusin still alive? What about the blood troop and everything else? Liam shook his head. If it was out of his control, Liam didn't need to worry. He did anyway. But there was another matter at hand. Something urgent. Liam had no damn sword style. Obviously, due to the trials, his swordsmanship was layers and layers above other people. But it had no fixed form. No set of moves. Martial arts had 1 to 3 forms at a time. Liam was just swinging his sword in whatever way his instincts told him to. In whatever way it felt right. That has to change, Liam thought with a scowl. There's no doubt in my mind that Rien got something out of this that I didn't. Unlike me, she fought her copy and didn't have a ridiculous body or something inimitable like chaos. And that was the only trial that helped develop a sword style. Liam's eyes narrowed. I need to develop a sword style, here and now. But first, these pills. Liam threw the white pill in his mouth. It tasted sour. Like an apple mixed with a pear mixed with a pineapple. When it was digested, Liam felt his entire body go warm. At the same time, the aura reserves in his body seemed to double. But Liam frowned once he realized something. This power-up was not permanent. It was temporary, and probably required for the next trial. Liam threw the black pill in his mouth, too. Suddenly, the black water in Liam's mind started to churn and double in volume. But this was also temporary, and Liam felt a pang of regret. Damn you, eternal sword. Why didn't you just make it permanent? Liam cursed the celestial. With double the mental energy, Liam's thoughts were almost twice as fast, while his senses were laser precise. It was like having another mind. It allowed Liam to peer at what the future held if he continued with his ridiculous training schedule. With twice the mental energy, I can definitely make a fighting style, Liam thought with a slight smirk. Liam took out his sword, still in its basic, longsword form. Can you repeat what the swordsman called you? The black blade asked Liam with a sunny smile. I don't think the little demons heard it clearly. The dusk blades grumbled. We heard it, you stupid kitchen nymph. Wait, are you cursing your own forger? The black blade gasped dramatically. He's the black blade too, you know? The dusk blades went silent, but let out another growl. The breaker was silent. Contemplating his life, probably. Where do I start? Liam thought with a sigh. Time passed. Liam didn't pay attention to how long. He needed to perfect this sword style, determined to sacrifice even a year or two of his life if it required it. But there was an invisible blade looming above his neck. The inheritance was dying. It was degenerating, and with Liam and Twilight's presence, it was getting worse. In reality, inheritances were similar to a battery. If they were being used, they would deplete some of their charge, which was aura. But if Liam and Twilight were dormant and weren't doing anything, it would slowly stabilize. So Liam staying idle was a good thing. It might even force Twilight to do the same, if she was in the same trial as him. Thus, Liam thought over his fighting style. What did he intend with each swing of his sword? Well, other than killing his opponent, of course. What were his abilities? How could he express himself with his blade? Who was he? Liam kept repeating Eternal Sword's pieces of advice throughout his meditation. In more than one way, Liam's current sword style was chaotic. It was meant to do the most damage in the quickest way possible. In a sense, it was both chaos and order. Most chaotic forces didn't utilize speed. They just utilized destruction and havoc. Obviously, Liam's chaos was one of them. However, speed usually came at the expense of destruction. This was all in broad, general terms. Obviously, it was not as simple as this. But it helped outline what Liam's sword style was supposed to look like. As much as he'd love to utilize Void with his sword, the way it was now, it was not possible. Simply put, it was too strong. But after a while, Liam understood what direction he wanted to go. Add chaos to order. And order to chaos. Become a double-edged sword.